Okay, we're going to start with Charter of Rights and Freedoms, so you guys know what the Charter is, correct? It was created in 1982. Okay, it's a document that allows, so it's basically part of our Constitution, which means it's almost impossible to change. Okay, we need the Queen's consent to change it. So, based on these laws, that's what protects us from dictators. So when Trump becomes president, he can't just become president for the next, or prime minister, he can't be prime minister for the next forever. Because democratic rights guarantee that we have elections how often?
4 years.
Every 5 years. Not 4 years. Every 5 years. If you put 4 on a test, it's incorrect. Close enough is wrong. Okay? So there are rights that we need to talk about. Fundamental rights are your right to speech. These are fundamental rights, or rights that you would expect in any nation across the world, including those that are not a democracy. So you expect to be able to say what you want when you want to say it. That's a fundamental freedom. That's the right freedom of speech. There are limitations to these freedoms. You can't walk into a theater and yell fire. Why can't you do that?
Why? It's illegal.
Because it'll hurt a lot of people. Those people will get up and try to run through one door, so you're causing panic. So you can't say whatever you want whenever you want. You can't hurt other people with your words. Okay? You can call them whatever you want. That's freedom of speech. Now, when you're within a school, those freedoms are again limited. Okay? So again, you can't just walk around and call people whatever you want. Another fundamental freedom is what? Yeah. Religion. Freedom to believe in what you believe. You can always believe in what you want to believe. Now, these guaranteed fundamental freedoms are not guaranteed around the world. This is not the case. You can't believe in what you want to believe in wherever you go. But in Canada, if you want to believe in a spaghetti monster that rules the world, go ahead. We're not going to hold that against you. We're going to make fun of you for it, but we're not going to hold that against you.
No,
okay?
But you actually can't make fun of someone's religion.
I can make fun of your religion because of freedom of speech.
Really?
Absolutely. I can't force you to believe in Christianity.
I thought that was under like some sort of abuse law or something. Aren't those Mormons too?
So there is the Book of Mormon right now, the Bible play. Have you guys heard about this?
Oh, I've seen it.
Ridicules Mormonism. But it's also factually correct. It just presents it in a funny way. Christianity, South Park does this for all religions. They make fun of all of them. They're allowed to because of freedom of speech. You're allowed to believe in what you want, regardless of how absurd it seems. If you believe that the world was created 6,000 years ago and dinosaur bones were put here by God to make us believe that the world was old, that's up to you. You can believe that. You're wrong. Science says you're wrong. But you can believe that if you'd like. We're not going to force you to believe in something. So we're not going to force you to think something. We're not going to force you to, or limit what you say. What else don't we limit? Of who you hang out with. If you guys want to peacefully hang out, you're more than welcome to. If you guys want to get 40 of your friends together and burn down houses, that's illegal. If you want to get 40 of your friends together and hang out in your front yard, as long as you're peaceful, that's not illegal. That's a fundamental freedom. We can't tell you how many people you can hang out with at once. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Do you need me?
When you're...
It's a lecture, so it'll take 20
can I
minutes.
just ask you a quick question?
Yeah. Just let me stop this recording. Okay, sorry about the break. The second part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms are your democratic freedoms. Your democratic, the root of the word is democracy, correct?
Yes.
Or the root of both words are the idea is democracy, right? So your democratic goes with voting. If you're over 18, you have the right to vote. Do you have to vote?
No.
No, but you should, to prevent things that you don't want to happening. You can say Trump. You can also say Clinton, because she wouldn't have been a great president.
What?
She wouldn't have.
That's my belief that she would.
So The Democratic, there are two parts. You can vote when you're 18. Why 18?
Because that's when you're considered an adult.
That's when you're considered an adult. In the States, you can drink at 18, you can vote at 18, but you can't drink till you're 21. In every other province, you can vote at 18, you can drink at 19. So there's a little bit of confusion going on, right? We don't trust a 16-year-old to have the awareness and thought process to make a valid vote, basically. So sit there and listen to the issues and not just be like, pot, yeah, and vote right away. So we're trying to get informed voters, which is part of your responsibility as a citizen of Canada. Make sense? And then what's the other one we just went over? Elections every 5 years. It's guaranteed in the charter. So if your president, if our prime minister says, look, I know it's 5 years, but we want to stretch it just a little bit more, it's unconstitutional. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. He has to set us a date, or she has to set a date before the 5 years is up. Good?
Yeah.
Can you do it every 2 years?
No.
Of course you can. It's just impractical. Why would you do that? When you can do it for 5 years, why not hold on to it for 5 years? Now, why would they do it at 4 years? Because things are looking up for them. So if I'm at the top of my game and everybody likes me, I want an election right there. 4 years is acceptable. 3 years, you're kind of like, well, you're pushing it. Why are you doing it so soon? If you're really bad at 4 years, hold on. Maybe it gets better. Maybe 7 months later, the economy's turned around, your popularity's up. Now it's time for an election. Because the ruling government sets the election, not like the states. So we avoid 3 years of posturing and like running for president. You guys know that Trump and Clinton have been running for president for the last year and a half, 2 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time to listen to their stuff. We do it in about 6 months, 4 months. We start to set it up and we're like, oh, this is what I would do, this is what I would do, this is what I would do. And then it's election and then it's done. And the next one kind of has to be sprung on us again. Okay, so it's not a set date. There's benefits and negatives to both sides. Mobility rights, what are they? Yeah?
Your ability to go in and out of the country.
You're allowed to enter and leave the country at will. Now, if you have a criminal record, can you leave our country and go to the States? No. You are not allowed to leave our country and go to the States, but that's not because of our mobility rights. They don't want you. You're a criminal. America doesn't want more criminals in their country, so they prevent you from coming in. If you want to leave to another country, you're more than welcome to do that if that country will accept you. But as soon as you have a criminal record, you're very limited to where you can go. Okay? So our mobility rights will limit you, but not from entering and leaving our country. That's not our mobility rights, that's theirs. What's another part of the mobility right? Yeah? You can live wherever you want. Why does that matter?
Because you're not like trapped in Alberta or something. You can live in Saskatchewan if you want.
Absolutely. You can move all around the country. Okay? So the East Coast can come and work in Alberta, which they do often. And they take the money and they send it back home, and it doesn't help our economy, but it helps the country. Okay? What about the French? Can we move to Quebec?
Yes.
Even though we don't speak French?
Yes.
Even though we're Alberta pigs and we don't believe in the same thing that they do?
Yes.
Absolutely we can. Just like they can move here. We're one big country. You have to think about it as a big country. Okay? Legal rights, what are they? Can they search you whenever they want?
No.
Not at all. Do you guys know that your backpack is a part of your possession?
Yeah.
We are not allowed to search you, your backpack, or your locker without, even though the locker is school property, correct?
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's when we give it to you, that's your possession. So we're not allowed to go into your locker whenever we want. If you're foolish enough to leave your locker open, we don't need a warrant. We can just open the locker. Well, it was open when I walked by. But if you've locked your locker and we suspect you have a gun, you have weed, you have whatever, a note from I'm pretty sure you cheated, open your locker, you have to let us open your locker. That's your right as a student. You guys are protected under the Charter and Rights and Freedoms. So, if a super truthful person comes up to the principal and says, look, I know that Parker has a gun in his locker. And we're like, what? This is nuts. That person, if they're trustworthy, can be believed, and it's a kind of, that supersedes your rights. Okay? If they're like, Parker said that, Bryce said that, Phil said that, Cam said that, Lucy told him that Colin has a gun. That doesn't count. That's too much like, maybe. If you've seen the gun in the locker, it changes everything. If you're like, no, I just heard, you know what? Colin said someday that on November 10th, he was going to bring a gun to school. We can't search his locker, but we can bring in police for that. Make sense? Can they search you and say, show me your cell phone?
No.
Nope. If you have headphones coming from your ear to your pocket, can we believe that you have a cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, so we can send you to the office and the principal can deal with that. But they still can't search you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So your rights, it's really important to know your rights, especially going to high school. Especially if you guys are going to start dealing weed, don't. Okay, but know your rights. Okay, what else? We can't just search you whenever, right? Can we hold you?
No.
So we have to charge you if we're going to hold you, or at least inform you of what we're going to charge you with, right?
Yeah.
What's reasonable limit? So I can charge you with murder and then hold you for the next 6 years and not give you a trial? So we have to give you a trial within a reasonable time.
Yes.
And if we don't, what happens?
He gets let free.
Those charges have to be dropped. He can be free. If I charge you with trespassing and I can't see you for 2 years, you can't charge me with trespassing. We have to get you in fast, which is why it's important not to bog down the court system with petty things like, well, he owes me $1, because judges have to see those cases and hear those cases. As soon as they're getting to that point, it slows down the court system. Is this making sense? So those 3 things, you understand? You can't be searched or stopped. You need to be charged if you're going to be held, and reasonable trial for your legal rights. Now, are these legal rights always? Can we limit those legal rights?
Yeah.
When? In times of crisis. 9/11, the day of 9/11, September 11th, 2001, we can say it's a state of emergency. All of your rights are gone.
Whoa.
If a policeman drives down the street, and I think they did this, I'm not sure if they did it in Canada or just in America, but if a policeman drives down the street and says you look suspicious, they can throw you up, like in jail. They can lock you up. And not until that state of emergency is finished do your rights get reinstated. So it's not all the time that you just, oh, you can't talk to me. No, it's a state of emergency. You will do what we tell you when we tell you. Your mobility rights, they're gone. We can give you a curfew, correct?
Yes.
The government can,
Yes.
but not all the time.
No.
So that's the state of emergency. And in certain countries, those state of emergencies get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it's always just, we're still in a state of emergency. Okay? So you really got to check your government, because your government has the power to do that. That's actually how Hitler started to get into the rights. What are the language rights? Yeah?
Right to opinion.
Right to your opinion?
Language. Speak any language.
Right to speak any language?
Yes. Sort of.
Oh,
You're correct, but you're incorrect as well.
English and French.
English and French are protected. Okay? The other part of the language rights where you were correct is you can speak any language. We have to provide a interpreter for you, because if we're going to charge you, you have to know this. Just, you guys remember in the book the sign language one? that sign language one is because of this language law. And if languages are okay, if we're going to interpret for the deaf, should we not interpret for the Syrians?
Yes.
Should we interpret for the Russians?
Yes.
For everybody. If you're going to do it for one, you have to make it even. You have to do it for everybody. Make sense? So the language laws are what? French and English. Do we have to guarantee French in Alberta?
No.
Do we have to guarantee French in Alberta?
Yes.
Absolutely. Do we have to guarantee English?
Yes.
No. What language are we speaking? What language is that stop sign written in? Does it say arrête underneath it? No, we have to protect French in Alberta. Alberta's national, like the actual language is English. So Canada's trying to protect French, and we will guarantee French rights in Alberta. Alberta's already guaranteed English rights. We don't need to whoa, you have to speak English. Everybody speaks English. So it is guaranteed, but it doesn't have to be guaranteed. Does that make sense? Question?
Since we're protecting French, would that mean Quebec is protecting English?
So Quebec has to allow you to speak English. Their national language is French. Okay, so we have to protect English in Quebec. There's one nation or one province with dual languages. What are they? What's it? Yeah? New Brunswick has which ones? English and French is their national language. Quebec has which one? French. Alberta has English. BC has English. Everybody else except for New Brunswick and Quebec has English. Quebec only has French. New Brunswick has both. Okay? And it's just because of the heritage. Why do we protect the French? They started the country. They were here when we started the country. There was equal French and equal English at the time they started to talk about it. So they said, we will join your country, but you have to protect our rights and our freedoms and our all this. As soon as you lose your language, you start to lose your culture. Because you stop doing your all the traditions, and you stop losing the words, and you stop losing the meanings, and you lose your culture when you lose your language. So it's really important to protect your language. Okay?
Yeah.
What about treaty rights? Yeah? Just stretching?
Yeah.
What are your treaty rights? Do we have treaty rights?
Yes.
I don't know.
No.
I didn't sign a treaty. I'm an English male. I don't need a treaty. We rule the country. First Nations, they signed the treaties. They get what they agreed on. Now, when we talk about treaty, let's say 6, is education guaranteed? Yes, we guaranteed them education. Did we in Treaty 1?
No.
Not at all. So Treaty 1, if we start to negotiate and I say, Kaylee, I'm going to give you 50%. You don't have to do the rest of the work. Rest of the year, you don't have to do any work. Is that fair? What do you mean no? I'm giving you 50%. You don't have to work at all. Kaylee's smart. She's like, yeah, okay. But I can also get higher, right? Yes, absolutely. She's like, yeah, I scored wicked. I go over to Colin. I say, Colin, 50%. Colin's great. He goes, wait, I want 60. I'm feeling super generous. I say, yeah, absolutely, 60%. Kaylee turns around and goes, what the frick? That's not fair at all. He got 60. I want 60. I've already made a deal with her. We're not going to renegotiate just because you didn't ask for 60. He gets 60, she gets 50. Is this fair?
No.
Not at all. This is how the treaties work. Treaty 1 didn't get very much. Treaty 2, Treaty 3, Treaty 4, Treaty 5, Treaty 6. You can see more and more and more based on when they sign. Because the next person that comes up and I say, hey, Colin got 60%, you're going to be like, I want 60 plus I want this. So you always ask for a little bit more. The longer you can hold out, the more you're going to get. Now, education rights. You guys are guaranteed your education, correct?
Yeah.
Are you guaranteed university?
No.
Did we sign a treaty with you?
No.
We did sign a treaty with the First Nations. Does education mean that we provide the education or that they provide and we give them money for their education?
We provide.
This is where it gets really dicey. Because things that were said in those treaty negotiations, Lucas, if you can't do this, get out. Things that were said in the treaty negotiations were not written down. Now, the First Nations are an oral culture, which means that if you said it, that's what you said, this is what's going to happen. The English are writing down, oh, I didn't write it down. Oh, I put a little loophole, because if you interpret it this way, they're going through, and it's still this way to today. If there's a loophole in the law, we exploit it. Well, it's not technically this way. The First Nations, when they said, no, but that's not what we meant, they all understood what they meant, and they kind of agreed with it. So when we said education, and we start to go to university, they interpret that as you have to pay for our university. Which is why people think that we pay for their university. We don't. We gave them money, they get to figure out how they get to deal with their education. Okay? You guys know which groups have collective rights? Which ones? First Nations. That's it?
No.
Who else?
French.
French have collective rights, and who else?
English.
Absolutely the English do. Do women?
Yeah.
No. Are women a group?
Yes.
Not like the French, the English, or the First Nations, are they?
No.
So why those three groups? Come on.
We don't know.
Yeah?
Because they started our country.
Because they started our country. They were all there and they started our country, and we said, no, that's fair. You guys were here at the beginning. You guys get to keep your culture. We will protect your culture, your rights, your all of it. Your collective rights will be included. Women, do you guys have a group? Were you like a thing back then? Were you like, no, men are this, women are totally different? You guys still saw yourself as English and French and First Nations. So you guys don't have collective rights, you just have rights. Just like everybody does. Okay? And you guys, we talked about the education rights, correct? Well, we haven't really talked about it. Education rights. Do we have to guarantee English language in Alberta?
Yes.
Every school is in English language, right? So if your parents went to a French school, or either in Quebec, French immersion, whatever it is, we have to guarantee that their kids can be raised in a French school, can be educated in French. We have to guarantee that. Because you guys are going to an English school, you've lost that right. But if you move to Quebec, they have to guarantee that you be educated, your kids will be educated in English. It's not your right to just switch over to French because, well, French. But if you were raised in, if your parents are French and your parents' parents are French and everybody's French and they're like, yeah, we want to keep this, you're allowed to keep it. But you're not just allowed to like willy-nilly switch, and that's your right. Does that make sense? Okay. We talked about, can these rights be infringed on, right? Can they be? Yes. When? Times of crisis. If we suspend your rights because of an emergency, you have no rights. Until then, you have the rights. And then those rights can't be infringed on. I can't make a law that says women aren't allowed to work. Okay? If I make a law and they say you're not allowed to work on Sunday, that's illegal, which has already been struck down. Do these rights pertain to Canadians? Yes. Do they pertain to non-Canadians?
Yes.
Yes, as long as they're on our soil. If a Canadian's over in Japan, he doesn't have the rights that he has in Canada. Neither does she. Nobody has the rights. You have to follow their laws over there. But when you're on Canadian soil, all people on Canadian soil have those basic rights. Which ones don't they have? Democratic. They lose their democratic right because they don't have the democratic rights given to them. They're not allowed to vote just because they're here until they're a Canadian citizen. Does that make sense? Okay, when we talk about understand the following instances of Canadian history. You guys know what the Indian Act is? The thing that guaranteed, that put the state of Canada Canada was in charge of the First Nations like they were kids. We can't trust them. They're savages. We will raise them. Because you guys are raising yourselves wrong. So to leave the reserve, what would have to happen? Yeah?
Get permission.
You'd have to get permission. So if you were the wrong type of First Nations, if you're like, oh yeah, but I don't trust you. I don't really like you. Kieran's kind of a shady individual. He's not allowed to leave the reserve. So I get to choose, and that limits your mobility rights, correct?
Yeah.
So it's unconstitutional. Okay? Residential schools you know about. We're going to do a big part on them next. Suffrage movement. What is suffrage? Suffrage is the right to vote. A suffragette is not the right to vote. What is a suffragette? Et means what? Woman. Suffrage means? So a suffragette is a woman fighting for their right to vote. Okay? That's what a suffragette is, and that's the difference between suffrage and suffragette. That's obviously against their democratic right. Ukrainian is which war?
World War One.
World War I. Japanese is which war?
World War Two.
World War II.
Okay? We switched from Eastern Europe is the enemy to Asians are the enemy because of the war. Germans were interned. There was other people that were interned. But Ukrainians, we don't trust you. We're going to lock you up. Japanese, we don't trust you. You guys could be spies. Well, you're on the coast. We're super suspicious of you. Okay? The 4 issues in the textbook, please understand those. You guys know what a labor union is, correct? Back in the 20s, these were necessary. Back in the 1900s, these were super necessary because meat packing plants. You guys know what a meat packing plant is?
Yeah.
Okay, so a cow would walk in. We weren't going to use bullets because bullets are expensive. So if I give you a hammer, it's the same thing. So your first person is in charge of smacking the cow in the temple with the hammer and killing it. Okay? Second person is going to cut it from basically butthole to chin and make sure that there's the skin can get off. And then the third person puts hooks in them so that skin, when they go up, can be torn off. Okay? So hopefully the person with the hammer did it well enough that the cow is dead. Because if not, the rest of the steps get a little dicey. Now, if I cut a cow from chin to butt, what's going to happen to the floor?
It's going to get all bloody.
It's going to get all bloody. So if we do this with thousands of cows a day, you're going to be standing in 1 foot to 2 feet of blood. Now, if you guys ever touched blood, obviously, a lot of blood,
Yeah.
it's slippery. It's really, really, really slippery. So if you're standing in 1 foot of blood in a factory, is that hygienic?
Not really.
Is it going to be like you're walking around with a knife that's good enough to cut a cow through a cow's belly 1,000 times a day? That's pretty sharp, yes?
Yeah.
You're going to slip at some point, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
You're probably going to cut something. Back in the 1900s, if you couldn't work, there was a whole bunch of people standing outside waiting for your job. Now, if I'm cutting this cow and I'm trying to get the meat, and I clip my thumb, got to keep going, correct. What happened to my thumb?
It fell into the pile of blood.
Fell into the pile of meat.
Yeah.
So when we take this meat and we're like, yeah, this is steak, this is this is ground beef. Your thumb could be in that ground beef. There's no guarantee that it's not. This is 1900s. And again, if you're like, my thumb, somebody's like, stop working so little, I can replace you right now. So they would do this all the time. So people started to unionize. They would open the gates at 8:01. You would start at 8. So you'd get paid $15, let's say $10 for an hour, except it wasn't that high. You get paid $10 for an hour. I opened it up at 8:01. We're not paying you for this first hour because you didn't work the first hour. I shut the plant at 4:59. I'm not paying you for the last hour because you didn't work the hour. I've gotten 2 free hours out of you. Is that fair?
Not really.
What are you going to do?
Riot.
Quit. Go ahead. I've got a whole bunch of people out there. Riot. Go ahead. I'm a business owner. I'm worth more than you. So when the police come up and they're like, hey, what's going on? I say, this kid will not leave my store. Keeps on breaking things, keep on doing this, wants more money. I have a whole bunch of people out here. They want his job. I don't need him. I would like him to leave. He's missing a thumb, slipped in blood all day. Life is not good. So you guys unionize. If you all work together, that's a union. As long as one of you breaks, I've got you. Because if Lauren's asking for $20 an hour and Reese will work for 15, I don't care what Lauren wants. But if I can't hire either one of them, now I'm screwed as a business owner. I've got my personal $15 an hour, and then I go back and I say, you're out of work. Will you work for 12? They're like, yeah, okay, I'll work for 12. I come back to Reese and I say, well, will you work for 10? Yep. Until one of them says no. I don't know what a point. Maybe it's $4 an hour. Maybe she's like, look, I really need this job. Reese is like, no, I'll go get another job for $4 an hour. So now I've gotten you from 20 down to 4. Is that fair? So unions protect the workers. Now, why do we need unions if the government gives you a minimum wage? If the government guarantees you all these rights, why do we need a union? Yeah?
So they don't keep you at minimum wage.
So they don't keep you at minimum wage? Do you believe that businesses will hurt you if they get the chance to? Not hurt you, but their businesses work for their own interests, correct? They're not worried about their employees. But it's beneficial for them long term if they keep their employees happy, blah, 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 blah. So we still need unions, especially when it's like a single employer. But unions are very divisive things right now because they drive the price way up. So you're paying a lot for a car because these people are getting paid a ton of money to screw something into a door. And they're like, zee, aha, I did it. So you still need unions to a point because as soon as you take them away, businesses will take whatever they can get. But they're only beneficial to a certain point because I'm not sure if people are worth the money that unions are. The tagline is unions protect the stupid because it's really tough to get fired once you're in a union. Okay? Collective right, we talked about this, right? Should the government promote French language in Canada? Yes. What happens if you don't? The French die. If you don't promote French, the French die. If we don't promote English, what happens? We'll probably be okay. I got to be honest. America's going to do enough to keep that English language alive. The rest of the world does a lot of business in English. There's, let's say 28 million people out of the 36 million in Canada that speak English. So we'll be okay, right? We know Treaty 7. We know Treaty 6 and Treaty 8. What's a Métis? Yeah?
Person that's French and English.
Person that's French and English?
Whoa. No.
No. Yeah? French and First Nations? It's actually European and First Nations. Okay? It's mostly the French. It's like a really high percentage of French. But it can be the English as well. They were also considered Métis. Now, the Métis were around when we founded Canada. So they get involved in these collective rights. Were the Métis around at the beginning of the creation of Canada? When the French arrived, were there any Métis here? No, there were First Nations and there were French. So for years and years and years, they weren't recognized as a First Nations. They were recognized, they were given their own rights back in 1870 with the Red River Rebellion. Who was the leader of the Red River Rebellion?
Wolf.
Wolf.
I don't know, I forget.
It's a French name.
Not
Louis.
Armstrong.
Who? Louis Riel. Louis Armstrong is not the guy you're looking for. Louis Riel in the Red River Rebellion in 1870. Okay? The white people were coming up. They were taking the land. They were just saying, hey, this is my land. I'm Scottish. I'm allowed to it. The Métis said, no, 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 this is our land. We've been here for like 50 to 100 years. We've gotten a good thing going. They said, well, yeah, but we're Scottish, so piss off. So they started to fight. And Louis Riel killed one Scottish person and was kicked out of the country for it. However, the Métis got their own land. They were recognized. What province is this? Manitoba. Manitoba in Louis Riel. Red River Rebellion, 1870. When would they put into, if they weren't recognized as First Nations, when were they recognized as First Nations by the government? Yeah? 1982 with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. That's when the Métis were really recognized as First Nations. Okay? And it's kind of murky in there, but that's... you guys know what autonomy is?
Yeah.
Autonomy is self-ruling. Autonomous means you get to make your own decisions. The First Nations, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different videos and articles. You have to read those articles. You have to watch those videos because in a week from Monday, you have another test on that. First Nations. I don't feel that we cover First Nations enough in the curriculum. So you're going to talk about residential schools. You're going to talk about current problems. So when that, if there's another protest, or when you realize that there's, I think that, what is the number? 1,500, 1,700 First Nations girls have gone missing, and there's just nobody looking for them. But you get one, old couple with a young kid, and you get a nationwide alert, which happened in Calgary 2 years ago. But a First Nations girl, 14 years old, goes missing, and people are like, oh, well, she's probably just walking around or drunk or laying in a ditch or whatever. We are incredibly racist when it comes to First Nations. Like, worse than the States. We are the number one. Like, we treat our First Nations the worst in the world, is what the UN said a couple years ago. Okay? So, read those articles, watch those videos, and please be able to understand those 2 questions below. You will be tested the following week. Are there any questions? No? Okay, you've got the rest of the class to study.